Anyway, let me get started. Now, my purpose for doing this, a few reasons. One is that I felt a need to deal with something other than bullying. I've been dealing with bullying for so many years. It's coming out of my nose. My mission is still far from achieved because the world is still on its misguided approach to bullying. I'm still hoping to accomplish my goals, but I got to have something else to deal with. I've always been interested in anti-Semitism because I'm a Jew. I felt it as a kid. My parents were Holocaust survivors. I got called names in the street. I had rocks thrown at me because I was identifiably Jewish. I wore a yarmulke going to Jewish school. I was beaten up a number of times, sometimes quite seriously. So I grew up with anti-Semitism. I saw it as quite normal. I also have to say, I don't think that I came out with traumatized by the anti-Semitism. Some of the incidents were very upsetting and for quite a while, but I didn't come out hating Gentiles because they would beat me up. I just realized this is, people hate, and they happen, Jews are a big target of hate. The anti-Semitism in the world today has reached a level not known since World War II. It's horrible. And I can't just do nothing about it. I feel I have to do something about it. And I think I have some techniques and ideas that I've developed over the years because of being involved in bullying, how to make things better, how to treat people. By the way, I've written quite a bit about racism and especially about anti-Semitism. I have a free manual that I wrote, The Golden Rule Solution to Racism. And I give a lot of scenarios, but I use Jews as the example because I don't want any other race or group saying, oh, you don't know my group, you can't talk about my group. But I do know Jews, so I wrote this with Jews as the example. I think it's a pretty good manual, and if anybody wants it, I will gladly make it available to you, for free. Uh, so, with all of this, the war against Israel by Hamas, it's just so painful. We're lucky we had Iron Dome. Without Iron Dome, I don't know what would have happened to us. But Iron Dome is amazing. I saw it. I just had, people thought I was crazy going outside to look at it because it's dangerous. Falling pieces can hit you. But it's these stars, one after the other, going in different directions and ending in a boom. It was amazing, just amazing. But our enemies are always stockpiling more and more powerful weapons. I don't know what's going to happen the next time. If Hezbollah goes to war against us, what are we going to do? They have 150,000 missiles pointed at us, and they're worse than the Gaza missiles. These are guided missiles, powerful. I don't know what's going to happen. So we really, uh, um, we. I feel I need to do something. And when I'm concerned about anti-Semitism, I'm not only concerned about Jews, I'm concerned about the world. Because if there's a lot of anti-Semitism in the world, it's not good for the world either. I think history has shown that countries that were good to the Jews flourished. Countries that got rid of their Jews went downhill. It's not good for the world to be against the Jews. Now, with so much support for Hamas against Israel, it's mind-boggling to me. Progressive people are supporting the most regressive organization possible against the most progressive nation in the Middle East. It's mind-boggling how people can embrace and support an organization which is the antithesis of their own values.
Izzy,
But anyway,
what
yeah.
they're doing is supporting what they see as an underdog, and they're supporting what they've labeled as a victim rather than looking at what are they actually standing for? What is it that they're actually creating? I don't think there's much intellect aspect to it. I think a lot of it is just this emotional going for the underdog.
Yeah.
And believing everything they see on the front page of the New York Times or whatever.
Which is distorted
Okay. Anyway, what I would like to do, I'm going to make a short presentation. I prepared a short PowerPoint with some ideas, and afterwards, I will be happy to open it up for more talking. But first, I want to make something a little bit more organized, and then I'll open it up. But I felt I have to do something because the situation is terrible. If we support a terrorist organization, they discover that they have power at any time they want to get what they want. All they have to do is start blowing up innocent people, and it's going to happen throughout the world. The terrorists don't just stop in Israel. They didn't start here. They didn't stop here. But if terrorism is given legitimacy, it's going to happen all over the world because terrorist groups are going to know that they can get what they want by blowing up innocent people. Okay. Now, I want you to know I am not a rabbi. I'm not a rabbi. My beard is not for religious reasons. I grew my beard to hide my vitiligo. About 12 years ago, I began developing vitiligo. You lose pigment in your skin. And my face looked like a leopard, with spots. And a couple of friends said, grow a beard. So I grew a beard, and you don't see it so much. It hides, the vitiligo on this part of the face. Since my beard has mottled colors, then it also kind of distracts from the mottled colors on my head because I have dark skin and light skin on my head. So that's the reason for the beard. I am also not a Jewish scholar. I've read a lot, but I'm not a scholar. I have friends who know much more than I do. I know a lot about Judaism because I've been a Jew my whole life, and whether I was a, a, a practicing Jew or an atheistic Jew at the time, being a Jew was always important to me. I've always read books about Jews, about Jewish history. I've read, many religious texts. I've gone to Jewish schools. So I know about Judaism much more than the average person and even more than the average Jew. But I'm not the biggest expert. And I hope there'll be people here who can answer some things better than I can. Also, my purpose here is not to try to convince anti-Semites not to be anti-Semites or not to hate us. If they want to stop hating us, fine, but it's not my goal. My goal is to educate, because a lot of people hate a certain group without knowing much about them. It's not right. If you're going to hate us, at least learn a little bit more about us. And you might discover you have good reasons for hating us, and you might discover maybe the reasons are not so good for hating us, but at least learn some more. So this is really an educational thing rather than an attempt to change people's minds about Jews. That's secondary.
So many people say anti-Zionist doesn't equate with anti-Semitism,
Yes.
which is also a nice hoax.
Yeah. The th- that's a very good point. The people who are fighting for the Palestinians against Israel, they're not taking up any other fight in the world. This is the only conflict that interests them. If they really cared about people, they would be. There are more serious fights to get involved in. There are places where far more people are being killed and suffering than in the Holy Land. So, if people are just making Israel and Palestine their issue, it's anti-Semitism. If you're selectively picking on Jews or getting concerned about what they're doing. So that's a good point, Morris. Okay.
Just say that I think that part of the problem with anti-Zionism versus anti-Semitism that you were saying that, there's a lot of other causes that people could get involved with is that I don't think it's as televised or as, put into the materials that are easily available to people as other conflicts that you have to be a little bit more looking for the educational purpose of in the world, that it's not
Yeah.
easily, put on in the news as Israel and Palestine and the whole.
You're absolutely right. So your point is that it's not necessarily because of anti-Semitism, but because that's simply what they're presented with.
Yes.
Okay, that's a very good point. I very good point. The question, though, is why is the media and the news so interested in Israel and not in places that are much bigger and have much more serious conflicts? Why is this the pet uh, issue for all of the media? But I think there's a reason for it, and I'll try to weave it into what I'm presenting here.
Oh, I was going to say there's some hatred that the world condones, that they just, it's not even turning a blind eye. It's almost a given for them. Hating Jews is just standard and has been the case for
Yeah.
thousands of years. And so they don't even have to look very far. It's just like something that unfortunately that they're accustomed to.
Yeah, a large part of the world has been anti-Semitic for a couple of thousand years. Okay. There are several hypotheses that I'm presenting in this series. One is that anti-Semitism is dangerous not only for Jews, but for the world. As I said before, nations flourished when they embraced their Jews, and they went downhill when they got rid of them. So my concern is really for the whole world, not just for Jews. Another hypothesis: people hate Jews for the same reason people hate other people. They feel victimized by them. Why do we hate people? It's because we feel victimized by them. We don't hate people because we like the way they're treating us or they make us feel good. We hate people because we feel victimized by them, or they're victimizing people we care about. You know, the Christian church blamed the Jews for killing Jesus. You know, we killed their savior. We killed, Jesus Christ, God on earth. So that gave them reason to kill us because we killed their savior. So we deserve to die. Another reason people hate Jews is because they feel we cheat them in business. We corrupt their morals, especially through Hollywood, which presents these uh, messages that are often contrary to traditional messages, and we're making society, we're corrupting society. They hate us because we control society, we control the banks. Uh, we also have called ourselves the chosen people. Not everybody's going to be happy when we say we're the chosen people. They're going to say, "Oh, you're the chosen people. I'm so happy I met you. I'm going to do whatever you want, because you're the chosen people." People resent us for saying that we're the chosen people. Or another reason they hate us is because we keep to ourselves. Why should they like us if we keep to ourselves? And the thing is, these things aren't necessarily irrational. There's truth to many of these things. We do keep to ourselves. We do control Hollywood. We created Hollywood. We are big in the banks. Uh, a lot of what they hate us for has validity. Another hypothesis: Jews are a microcosm of the world. We're like the whole world, but we're a microcosm. We have people of all races and colors and political viewpoints. And if you look at Israel, I don't think there's a country in the world with the same population that has such a variety of people. We have white people, black people, yellow, all different colors. We have different people from every continent. We have so many different cultures. We have Arabs in Israel. We have Christians in Israel. Everybody is welcome. We have everything in Israel. We have people from the far right. We have people on the far left. We have religious people. We have atheists. We are a microcosm of the world. Hypothesis: the land of Israel is a microcosm of the world. I just realized this relatively recently, but it's an amazing coincidence. The Bible says we're the chosen people, and God gives us this special land. Now, Jews who support Israel against the Arabs have been saying the Arabs have so much land, and we're just a little piece, a little sliver of land in this over here. The thing is, there's something misleading about that. There's something very special about this little sliver of land. This sliver of land is a microcosm of the world. I don't think there's any any piece of land in the world the size of Israel that has the variety of Israel that Israel has. We have mountains. We have the lowest place in the world. We have miles and miles of Mediterranean Sea. We have a huge inland freshwater lake. We have a salt lake, the Dead Sea. We have deserts that look like the moon. We have lush fields for growing things. You can spend your whole life traveling to Israel without getting bored. You don't have to go to the rest of the world to be a tourist if you don't want to. Israel has everything. So it's as though God gave this people that's a microcosm of the world to live in this land that's a microcosm of the world. It's an amazing coincidence in my view. Hypothesis. Jews are like every other nation and people, but more so. I actually got this idea from Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, who died recently, an incredible Jewish scholar. He wrote a book called We Jews, and he says in the beginning, we're like other people, and we're great imitators. Whatever country we go to, we imitate the people, and we become even more like them than they are. We become more German than the Germans were. We become more American than Americans than the Americans are. We become like them, but more so. It's also why we're overrepresented by good people and bad people, because we're like every other nation. We have good people, we have bad people. We have an incredible amount of good people, and we have an incredible amount of evil people. You know, Jeffrey Epstein, uh, I, I'm getting overwhelmed with names, but there are so many evil people with Jewish names, and they put us in such a bad light. Who's the guy who died recently who had the money scam? Somebody remind me.
Bernie Madoff.
Bernie Madoff. Yes, he died a few weeks ago. What a crook. Harvey Weinstein. You know, everybody knows about him. These people give us such bad names, but the truth is we have had a lot of bad people among us. Cheaters in business. I remember seeing a series on Netflix about inventions, and in a couple of them, there was a Jew who like stole the patent or the invention of somebody else. And you know, it's terrible. We've done a lot of terrible things too, because we're like everybody else, just more so. Hypothesis. The Jews have a purpose. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here after all these years. Exiled from our land after a couple of thousand years, we're still around. Without a purpose, we wouldn't be here. And I don't think the purpose is for the world to kill us because we're evil. We have to have a positive purpose. Hypothesis. God didn't choose us because we're better than everybody. He chose us to give us a purpose to be a light unto the nations. I actually got this idea by Dennis Prager. If you don't know Dennis Prager, you should look him up. He's a brilliant, brilliant man. And he's writing a comment on the Torah, on the Bible. And one thing he talks about, and I never realized this, is that the Jews, God didn't choose us because we're good. If you read the Bible, on several occasions, he wanted to wipe us out. You know, before long, you know, he does these incredible miracles that everybody sees, and before long, we're worshiping idols. And throughout our history, we've been worshiping idols. It's not because we're good, it's because he chose us to give us a mission. We're supposed to be a light unto the nations. Hypothesis. We have succeeded to a large extent in our mission of being a light unto the nations. The Jews are responsible for spreading monotheism throughout the world. We spawned Christianity. We spawned Islam. The majority of the world believes in one God and the same God because of us. And we have spread our basic values to a large part of the world. So we really have succeeded, even though we're tiny and people want to wipe us out. We have still done an amazing job in this world. But we're not finished. We still have a far way to go. And personally, I believe that when we finally figure out how to live in real peace with our Arab neighbors, then we will have become really, really close to fulfilling our mission ultimately. The big challenge is to learn how to make peace with mortal enemies living around you. Okay. Last hypothesis on my list. Oh, I said this before though. Anti-Semitism is dangerous not only for Jews, but for the world as a whole. Because we are a microcosm of the world. So if it's bad for the Jews, it's bad for the world. If you want to learn about the world, you have just look at the Jews. It hit me recently that Israel is like the laboratory for the whole world. We're the guinea pigs for the whole world. And it hit me really powerfully when Netanyahu and the head of Pfizer announced that Israel is going to be the laboratory for the corona vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine. Why? Why was Israel chosen to be the test case for the corona vaccine? It's because Israel is a small country. You don't need 100 million vaccinations. 10 or 20 million doses are enough. We have an incredibly big variety of people. We have skinny people and heavy people. We have sick people and healthy people. We have blacks and whites. We have people from all over the world. So Israel is a perfect laboratory for the corona vaccine. And also what happens if you give a whole population vaccines and how the population responds. It's not such a simple thing just, to see, does the vaccine work or not? It's really a social laboratory about giving vaccines to cure a pandemic. Also, it's been said for many years that Israel is the testing grounds for the military industry, because because we're actively at war so much, we get to test the leading military products. The best products come to us, the F-35, the Iron Dome, all kinds of things come to Israel to be tested. And it's amazing. This little country is really a model for the whole world. If you want to learn about people, you can just look at Israel and you will learn everything you need to know. You can do all of your experiments, your social experiments here in Israel. Okay, I see a chat. Oh, my absolute pleasure. So happy you're here. Okay. Does Islam have a golden rule? It depends who you ask. Most people will say that Islam does have a golden rule, and they do have a saying which is very similar to treat others the way you want them to treat you. But there are those who say that Islam does not really have a golden rule. And I think there could be a bit of truth to that. Now, you have to realize Islam is not a monolithic group of people or a monolithic set of beliefs. There are many, many streams within Islam. So some streams in Islam are incredibly enlightened. Really, if everybody in the world lived by the values of those enlightened streams of Islam, we would have utopia. They're incredibly enlightened. So they certainly live by the golden rule. But the basic Muslim idea is that if you don't believe what I believe you should believe, I have a right to kill you. That is an extreme violation of the golden rule. I would say that one of the things, or maybe the main thing that that the world can learn about Israel and peace, is that even though we are so diverse, Jews don't kill each other for what they believe. The differences between Reform Jews and Orthodox Jews is much, much bigger than the difference between Sunni Islam and Shiite Islam. But Sunnis and Shiites will kill each other. Orthodox and Reform don't kill each other because they don't have the same beliefs. We don't kill each other. So the world now is trying to get rid of hatred. The whole social movement of the modern world is to get rid of hatred, and the United States has hate crimes. Like certain crimes are worse because there's hatred involved. But look at society. There's more hatred now than ever, despite all of this education against hatred. This education is not working. It's because you can't just get rid of hatred. People love to hate. It's part of human nature to hate. You can't get rid of human nature. And if you try to get rid of human nature, it fights back. So all of this teaching to love everybody is falling apart. And it's especially obvious when you look at how people are treating Jews today. It's so common to hate Jews. If the world were to adopt the idea, you can hate me, but don't kill me, don't injure me, don't steal from me, don't rape my wife and children. You can't commit crimes against us, but hate us. If you want to hate us, be my guest. You can't make hate a crime. If you try to make hate a crime, things get worse. If you let people hate each other, but you teach them there are certain laws, these are all found in the Ten Commandments. But Judaism has a set of 7 laws that are called the 7 Noahide laws. Noahide laws mean Noahide comes from Noah. Noah is the guy who made the ark and saved life on earth by putting couples of all species during the flood that wiped out life on earth. So after the flood, God brought the flood because people were corrupt. This is the story in the Bible. People were corrupt and they didn't deserve to live, and he decided to destroy humanity and start over. So the laws that are given to all of mankind, meaning the children of Noah, because all of mankind supposedly are the children of Noah because his family was the only one to survive the flood. If everybody lived by these 7 Noahide laws, there wouldn't be hate crimes. People wouldn't kill each other over religion. The Jews and the Muslims would get along. People all over the world would get along because you're not allowed to kill people just because they don't believe what you think they should. Today, if you don't believe what I have to say, it's more from a leftist perspective, but if you say something that leftists disagree with, they will get angry at you. They'll try to get you punished. You can lose your job. You can lose your job if you go against leftist ideas. This is not the golden rule. This is criminal. And how do you know that that's not consistent with the golden rule? To fire somebody because they said something that's offensive. I'll give you a choice. I'm going to offend your race or religion or gender, or I'm going to get you fired from your job. What would you rather have me do? Please raise your hand if you would rather have me insult your race, religion, or gender than get you fired from your job. Getting somebody fired from their job is much, much worse than saying something against their race, religion, or gender. But we're treating it like it's a terrible crime. We get people fired because they said something offensive to us. That's not the golden rule. Bob, I saw your hand moving. Did you have a thought about that? Oh, I don't hear you. You have to unmute yourself.
Right. Yeah, I'd rather not get fired, actually.
Yeah, of course. I can handle an insult. I've been insulted so often for being a Jew. I've been called an idiot a number of times, but I don't want to lose my job. I have a family to support. But today we're firing people because they say the wrong thing. This is not ethical. But if we were to live by these rules that you can insult, you can hurt my feelings, you don't have to like me, but you're not allowed to injure me, you're not allowed to kill me, you're not allowed to steal from me, you're not allowed to rape my wife and children, then we have peace. But we're trying to make peace by teaching everybody only to think and say things that are not offensive to anybody else. It's never going to work. Okay, let me see what other questions are here. Okay, I don't see any questions. Anyway, I'm going to open this up to questions and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay.
It seems to me that Israel has not been very nice to the Falashas. That's my understanding. They're treated as second-class citizens. They were brought over to Israel. Maybe they haven't been assimilated correctly, but they're second-class citizens in Israel. I'm not saying they're
Yeah,
hated.
the history of Israel has been the history of every nation in the world. Whenever there's a new group that moves in, that group for a while is treated like second-class citizens. It's just the way people are. You know, you can criticize Israel for it, but it happens every place in the world. If a new group comes in, they're treated less well than the people who were there before. There's a wonderful comedy skit from Israel from a few decades ago. I don't remember the group that does it, but they start like with the people who came to Israel on the first Aliyah a long time ago. And then these people from Eastern Europe come and they look down at them. Then the Yemenites come and the Eastern Europeans look down at the Yemenites. And then the Moroccans come and the Yemenites look down at the Moroccans. And then the Russians come and everybody looks down at the Russians. It's just the way it is. The Falashas, I wouldn't say they're treated like first-class citizens, but they go to school, they have all their rights, there are a lot of them living around here where I live. And they have decent lives. You know, they go to university, they go to the army. The first generation didn't speak Hebrew. How can they get along? They came from Ethiopia. What kind of jobs can they do? So they take the street cleaning jobs and things like that because they're not qualified to do something else. But the second generation is educated. They've been to the army. Their situation is quite good. I don't have anybody here else in Israel to corroborate that. Lola, would you want to say something about that? No? Okay. It's true, but things are not that bad for the Falashas.
I just wanted
Yeah,
to say
yeah.
something about what you were. I think we should stop calling ourselves the chosen people. Even though we have a disproportionate amount of Nobel Prize winners and people hear the chosen people, it turns them off.
Yeah. I said that in the beginning. It's a tough, people are going to hate you for saying that you're chosen. I agree. But then again, if we don't see ourselves as the chosen people, we might give up our mission and then we won't do what we're supposed to be doing.
My studies, I've learned that it's not that we are the chosen people, but that we chose to be the light unto the nations when we accepted the covenant. That the covenant was offered to others, but was not accepted. So we chose. It was. I think if you look at the Hebrew, it's
Yeah.
more of an active choosing than being chosen, and it's a poor understanding of the Bible from my understanding.
Okay. Personally, I think that the concept has evolved over the years. I think initially when the Bible was written, we were considered the chosen people by God. He fought for us. He defeated the Egyptians for us. He cleared the land of Israel so we can come in. But I think in later years, it became uncomfortable to say that we're chosen. So we say we chose the mission. Also, not everybody believes in God. So if you don't believe in God, but you're part of the chosen people, then I guess it must mean that you chose, the people chose. So there's certainly, what you're saying certainly is valid. I don't know enough history to know whether that's absolutely true.
I grew up in a Christian suburb. You know, who didn't around here? And my first acquaintance with that expression regarding the Jews, the chosen people, it became for me as a child a kind of lesson in sarcasm, because that's the way it was used, sarcastically.
Oh, it was used against the Jews, like, oh, you're the chosen people.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have to expect that to happen.
Yeah.
You know,
Because
I
if you look at the word chosen, what are you being chosen for? It's like people who say, I'd like to have abundance. Abundance of what? Joy and blessings and prosperity, or an abundance of bills and hatred and whatever. So chosen for what? You know, it's
yeah,
all.
Yeah, it's quite ambiguous, isn't it?
yes, it is. Though if you read the Bible, I don't think it's that ambiguous, because it's clear that God chose the the children of Israel, and he's going to bring them to this land. And he says in the Bible that the nations who bless you will be blessed, the nations that curse you will be cursed. So he really chose us really to be a model for the world. And also, as I said, I guess we're like a litmus test, or the canary in the mine shaft. You know, if it's good for the canary, it's good for the world. If it's not good for the canary, it's not good for the world. Uh,
Yeah.
I see something else. There are many. I think Ellen wrote, many of those things they hate us for are the scapegoating, stereotyping myths. Yes, Morris.
I don't think any of us are immune to some kind of hatred, maybe small at some level. Since you and I had the same history of our parents being in the concentration camps, I'm not saying that I blame Germans of today for what their parents or grandparents did, but I would never buy a German bottle of wine.
Even
would
today,
never-
even today, you wouldn't buy one.
No. If I could afford a Mercedes, I wouldn't buy it. On a
Well,
one-to-one
but
basis,
you're a Jew and you can't afford a Mercedes.
No, I think Morris, I don't I want to pick on you, but I feel like that is a very prejudiced way to look at life when those people were not the people who are here today, the Germans that are here today are not the Germans of
right,
yesterday.
right,
Blame them
and
anything that their ancestors did, just like you wouldn't want to be blamed for anything that your ancestors did that you had.
it's just a visceral, un, unconscious thing. I don't believe in how did Elie Wiesel call it in I can't remember. I Where I worked, I came in contact with people of all nationalities. If I worked with someone who was German, that was okay. If I heard a German accent, if I heard a German accent in their voice, it immediately turned me off. I'm sorry.
Hmm. Have they ever talked about reparations the way they're doing here in the US these days regarding slavery? I mean, have the Germans ever been,
Where I mean, have the Germans made reparations to Jews after the Holocaust?
I think that's the idea. I was just
We,
wondering whether there was any social pressure to do anything like that,
we
as
are
there
the
is in the US.
we are the models for the blacks in America. We have been working on reparations for decades. We got reparations decades ago from Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I know.
the answer is yes. Yeah. And Germany did a lot to help the fledgling country of Israel, because they felt guilty for what they did, and rightfully so. And in more recent years, this was, I think, about maybe 2.5 decades ago, there was another fight to get uh, more reparations for individuals from people who didn't get reparations before. Morris, do you know about that? It was, what did they call it? There was another effort to get money uh, from Germany, about 20, the claims conference. The Morris did that.
Yeah,
Yeah, do you
yeah.
remember the claims conference?
They were even trying to get some reparations for second generation, but your parents had to have lived or died before a certain age. It was very convoluted.
Also, the Germans in the latest years have really stood up for the Jews when there's been anti-Semitism and stuff like that. I mean, you
Yeah,
see that with the yarmulkes that they put on, and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I agree, and you know, any a show of Nazism in Germany is a crime. Not here, but in Germany it is.
Yeah, they made it a crime. Now I understand Morris. You know, when he hears somebody speaking with a German accent, then it rubs him wrong. But that's because you grew up in the in the shadow of the Holocaust. You know, so much of your family was destroyed not too long ago. So when you hear German, it's hard not to have an emotional reaction against it, and me too. But intellectually, I know that you can't blame the Germans today for what happened. Germans are among the biggest supporters. Young Germans, most of them are horrified by what their grandparents did or
Yeah,
even parents
yeah,
did. So they're trying to make amends. So I don't think we should hate them forever. In
yeah.
fact,
Collective guilt. That's what Ali Wiesel used to talk about. I don't believe
yeah,
in collective guilt, but an individual who has a German accent, it does something to me.
yeah, I don't blame you. You know, when I was about 13 years old or 14 years old, I was walking home uh, at night from school. Actually, I got off the bus about a mile away from my house, and I was walking home, and it was in the dark. And these two young guys come up to me. One of them really didn't do anything, but one of them just started pounding on me and kicking me, and he said, "I'm a German." And you know, I'm like 13, 14 years old, and I'm not a fighter. It's not that I don't have strength, but I've never been able to punch people, and I just can't. I froze. I couldn't do anything to this guy. But a young guy, not much older than me, maybe my own age, is saying proudly, "I'm a German," and he's beating the crap out of me. Today, it's less likely to happen. No, actually, no. Today is the anti-Semitism today is worse than it's been in many, many, many years.
Right.
But
In flags and not necessarily German, but they'll be draped in flags or have flag covered cars that, you know, try to run into a crowd where there may be Jews or use that as a justification. Israel does this, therefore I can beat you up, even though you've got nothing to do with anything that's going on over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Seen that in social media also.
Uh,
I was just wanting to see if we could move in the direction of possibly, Izzy, if you've come up with anything like these are all hypotheses of why maybe there's anti-Semitism. But as Jews, is there something that we can do, or the way we can, or you know, to do anything about it, or is it just a discussion of this is
yeah.
what's happening?
I'm really glad you brought that up because I kind of got lost. So you put me on track. What we can do is treat our enemies by the golden rule, which means treat them like friends. And this is what my manual is about. And I've done many role plays at my seminars displaying this, but I would like to display it now. How do you deal with somebody who hates you for being a Jew? So I would like a volunteer here. Uh, yes, Joan?
I'll be a volunteer, but
Wonderful.
what I'm posing is, how do you befriend or disarm a person who's sworn to kill you by everything they've been raised with and the book that they deem to be holy?
Now, if they're facing you intending to kill you, if they have a weapon or they're just looking to kill you, you have to defend yourself and, if necessary, injure or kill him before he does it to you. But I'm talking about words because most of our encounters are with words. This does not apply to somebody who's come to kill you and he has a gun, he's going to shoot you. The words are not going to make a difference. But what do you do about somebody who insults you or criticizes you for being a Jew? Because that's mostly what people deal with. It's words.
Except
Yes.
that now Zionism, Israel, Jew hatred, anti-Semitism are so enmeshed, interrelated. And for example, UTLA in LA, the teachers union is drawing up a statement opposing Israel and trying to defund, trying to support BDS, and and then if it's the union accepts it, it filters down to the students, and that's what they're taught.
Yeah. We, in my opinion, we do have to do something about what's being taught about Jews, because it's terrible. If you teach people to hate Israel, they're also going to hate Jews, and then they're going to do things against Jews. So words do have an effect. The words can make people act differently. But so that's another matter, getting the right information out there, which is also one thing I'm trying to do with this webinar, to get people to have a better understanding of Jews. I don't have too many anti-Semites here today to educate about this, I don't think, but I do want to show how you can deal with an individual who is putting you down for being a Jew. So, Joan, you're willing to role play with me?
You got it.
Okay. I'm a Jew and you hate Jews. And by the way, for anybody else who watches this and doesn't know, the word anti-Semite really is a misnomer. And not all Semites are Jews. There are Semites who are not Jews. The Arabs are Semites, but they're not Jews. And there are Jews that are not Semites. The word really should be anti-Jew or something like that, not anti-Semite. But the word has come to mean hatred of Jews, so I use it that way also. Okay, so Joan, I'm a Jew, and you are going to put me down for being a Jew. And you can relate it to the way we treat Palestinians in the Holy Land, if you want.
Here, you came into our land and you restricted us to an area that we can't get food, and
we restricted you because of terrorism. We didn't want to restrict you. And what do you mean we came into your land? We came into our land. The land of Israel is our land.
Before it was your land, it was our land. You came in and conquered Canaan, and it was our land before that.
You're not Canaanite. There are no more Canaanites.
Those are our ancestors.
My ancestors were there before your ancestors were there.
Yeah, but our people lived there and you kicked us out.
We didn't kick you out.
1948.
We didn't kick you out. What happened is that the Arab nations declared war against Israel. They wanted to destroy us, and they told the Arab residents here to leave, run away. They're going to destroy us. Then they'll come back and take over again. That's what they said. It's not our fault.
But it is your fault that we're restricted to this area now, and we can't get food, we can't get medicine.
If you didn't bomb us all the time, we wouldn't have to close you off.
We're not bombing you. That's not us.
Oh, no? Who's doing it then? All those missiles coming from Gaza. It's not you? The fire balloons
That's Hamas. We can't control what Hamas does.
What are you talking about? You elected Hamas.
Yes, under penalty of death. That's how Islam works. You have
So
to
why?
do.
Okay, so Hamas made you be in what do you call closed off? Not Israel. Blame Hamas. Don't blame Israel. We didn't want to close you off.
But it's your bombs that killed my mother and my brother and my daughter and my son.
But it wasn't intentional. It's because we're trying to get the soldiers who are hiding among your children and your husbands and wives. They're waging war from civilian territory.
Well, it still killed them. You still killed us.
We didn't kill you. You have to blame Hamas. If you put your own people in harm's way, if you wage war by hiding behind women and children, you are to blame for their deaths. Okay, let me stop it here. Joan, am I making you feel less anti-Semitic?
No,
Am I convincing you that there's some truth to what I'm saying?
maybe there's legitimacy, but it doesn't change the fact that my family died.
So, but if I talk to you this way, are you going to want to listen to me?
Of course not. It's just defensive.
Yeah, because I'm being angry at you. I'm angry. Anger is what we feel towards an enemy. We only get angry at people when they do things against us. So if I'm angry at you, you feel under attack by me and you're going to be angry back at me. Also, if I defend myself, I'm treating you like an enemy. Why am I defending myself from you? Plus, I lose by defending myself. I'm in the weaker position. So you're going to keep on attacking me to get me to be defensive. Now we're going to do it again. This time, I'm going to treat you like a friend. Start again, Joan.
From where you kicked us out and put us in a place where we're cut off from the world and we can't get food and we can't get medicines and our people are dying because of you.
It's so terrible what's going on among your people. It's
So what
terrible.
do you do about it?
Do you know why we've done what we've done?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I don't care why. My family's dying and we're
Yeah.
starving and we're living in shacks and with and
Do you
it's all-
think? Do you think that that's what we wanted?
I'm stuck. I don't know how to respond to that.
No, we wanted you to flourish. We wanted you to flourish. When Israel took over the territories, the goal was to get you to become more advanced, to build businesses, schools, universities. We wanted you to flourish because otherwise we can't live in peace. Also, you gave us a lot of workers. I hate to say it out loud, but Jews aren't so crazy about doing manual labor. So we had so much manual labor. You built our houses, you made our streets. We needed you for all kinds of jobs. We didn't want you to suffer. We wanted you to have freedom like we do.
Yeah, but we're cutting off and we don't have supplies and our people are searched before they go through the
Yes.
passport and
Yeah.
they're demeaned and treated like second-class citizens.
Yeah, it's terrible what we have to do. We're not happy that we have to do this, but we have to protect ourselves from suicide bombers and people with knives and people who are trying to kill us. That's why we do it. We hate doing it. We hate having our children do this to you.
I just know that my children don't have a future in an overcrowded conditions where they can't get educated and thrive and
Yeah,
they're to be killed, especially our sons.
Yeah, it's terrible. Their future is being destroyed. This was not our goal. Our goal was for you to flourish. But as soon as we gave you the lands, you started sending rockets our way and doing all kinds of terrorist attacks. So we had to try to stop you from doing it. But that's not what we wanted.
They'll give us back our land and there won't be any more rockets. Go back to Europe. Go back to wherever you came from.
I know. I know it's very hard to accept the idea that people who were born and raised in Europe and America have a right to come and live in the lands where your people have been living for a long time. It's hard to accept the idea. But the thing is, I believe, we have returned to this land. To us, it's a return, even though we don't look like we're Middle Easterners, but we returned here because we believe that it's good for the whole area. Where Jews go, things flourish. Our goal was to have the Holy Land flourish and to be a model for the whole Middle East. We want for all of Middle East what we have created for ourselves. We have comfortable lives. We make decent livings. We're not short on food. We get educated. We live like almost like Europeans. We want that for all of the Middle East. We want all of the Middle East to have democracy like we do.
You're a non-believer. It needs to be Islam. It needs to be Sharia law, and we need to have our houses back.
You certainly deserve to have houses, and these are problems that have to be worked out because tragedies have happened. You've lost your houses, you've lost land. These are things that need to be worked out. The thing is, it's very hard to work these things out when you're teaching children to hate us and to bomb us. In your preschools and kindergartens, you have these plays where children are killing Jews. And you have graduation ceremonies where the kids are dressed like terrorists with AK-47s. How can we have peace like this?
And we're proud that they're going to defend us, and in the future, they're going to take back our land.
It might happen, but if that happens, it's going to come to a great cost to both of us. We're going to suffer, you're going to suffer. We don't want either of us to suffer. If you accept us instead of fighting us, you will flourish. All of the money that's going into missiles and tunnels and fighting us will go into building houses and roads and businesses and schools, and you will flourish. We will have business together. You're a hardworking people. You will flourish if you just tell yourselves these people are not our enemies. God wanted us to be here. We came back here after a couple of thousand years, and after 73 years of statehood that we've been fighting wars, we're still here and we're stronger than ever. Maybe Allah wanted us to be here.
Esau was sent out, and it's his land too.
Well, there's a place for Esau too. And in Jewish tradition, Esau are the Christians, and the Christians are not lacking in lands.
I thought Esau was the progenitor of Islam.
Oh no, that's Ishmael.
Ishmael. My bad.
Ishmael. Yes. Yes, this is Ishmael's land also. This isn't only for the Jews. I'm out. This is a couple of days after the webinar. I've been reviewing it and I realized I made an error here. The Bible did not grant the land of Israel also to the Ishmaelites. Ishmael was given the land of Paran, according to the Bible, while Israel was given the Canaan, which became the land of Israel. Of course, Ishmaelites can live in the land of Israel. Any peoples can live here as long as they obey the laws. So please forgive me. Ishmael was given Paran, not also the land of Israel. Back to the original recording. Islam came out of Judaism, and Islam is very similar to Judaism. If you look at the two religions, they're remarkably similar. They're remarkably similar. Now, there's one big difference between Judaism and Islam. Judaism has given up the idea that you can kill the infidel. That if somebody is an infidel, you're allowed to kill him. If you don't believe what I say you should believe, we're allowed to kill them. Islam still believes that, which is why there's so much violence in the Middle East, in Muslim countries. Not all Muslim countries, but it's because
Muhammad said the Jews are pigs and dogs and kill them behind the trees where they're hiding. That's what we're supposed to do.
If you read the Torah, our books of law, which are even older, there's a lot of barbaric stuff there also. There's stuff that we don't do today. Just because it said it, we don't do it. We gave up the idea that we should kill people if they don't do or believe what we think they should believe. And this is really the core to peace. Even in the Bible, if you look at the Bible, the Torah, when it tells us to kill certain nations, and these are nations that live in the land of Israel, they're all nations that are idol worshipers. And the reason God wanted them to be killed is not simply because they worshipped idols, but because they were immoral. people who don't believe in the one God don't have the same laws of morality. So these were corrupt people, and our job was to come and take over the land and bring the laws of God, which are moral.
But the Jews corrupted the Torah. They changed it. It's not the word of God anymore. The Jews made it into lies. The Quran has it right. The Quran corrected all the lies that the Jews wrote in the Torah.
Have you learned much of the Torah?
I know what the Quran tells me. That's what I've memorized in Arabic. I don't know what it means, but I know it's true.
Yeah.
So I take it from the Imam.
Yeah. I've read articles by different Islam experts or imams or whatever. There are different streams in Islam, and they don't all interpret the Quran in exactly the same way.
But I'm Sunni. That's the right one. That's
Uh-huh.
right.
But even within Sunni, you probably have different streams, or are all Sunnis believing exactly the same things?
I forget the name of the Sunni sect that's predominant in Saudi Arabia, but I think they're the most predominant. I forget the name of that.
Is that Alawi? Wahhabi. Yeah, Wahhabi is very fundamental.
Yes,
I think
that's what my
and Wahhabism has gained a lot of power in recent decades because Saudi Arabia was funding Wahhabism all over the world. But Wahhabism isn't the only stream of Islam. And personally, I think that if all of Islam lives by Wahhabism, they're going to be doing a lot of fighting with the world.
Yeah,
I think there are other streams of Islam that have more useful ways of looking at other people and how to live with them. But we can discuss it. Listen, I'd love to discuss it with you.
And they should be killed because they're infidels too.
So you believe that if I don't believe what you believe, you're entitled, or you're bound to kill me. That's
what the Quran says, but I can lie about it and say yes, because I'm also allowed to lie because it's Shia.
Now, what would happen if I also believe that if you don't believe what I believe, I'm allowed to kill you?
I'll kill you first.
And what if I'm faster?
Then my sons will avenge.
That's why we're going to have a lot of warfare if we follow Wahhabism.
That's why, personally, going out of the argument, I feel it's totally hopeless. I don't think we can win.
You don't think that?
It's possible. I mean, when not only is it getting into the curriculum of kindergartners and preschoolers in Arab countries and Islamic countries, it's coming to our schools at LAUSD. My God.
Yeah, it's a dangerous development. But anyway, let me refer to the role plays that we did. Let's say we are neighbors or we work together. When would you like me better? The way I treated you the first way or the second way?
Oh, obviously the second, because it was empathetic.
Yeah.
And you get legitimacy to my thoughts and feelings.
Yeah. The second way, would you want to be killing me?
It won't change my programming because I'm going to do hot.
Okay, which way are you more likely to want to kill me? The way I treated you the first way or the second way?
Oh, yes, of course, the first way.
The first way, you'll really want to kill me. If the first chance you get, the second way, you won't be in such a rush to kill me because I'm talking to you and I'm listening to you and we're having an intelligent conversation. Why would you kill me if I do that? The second way, would you think that Jews are terrible or maybe we're not all that bad?
I would say you're lying. I would say that
it could be.
And I can't trust you. And because I'm programmed and I've been taught from the breast that you're my enemy. And the only thing that I need to do is to kill you off. and push you into the sea and take back
Yeah.
what's ours.
Yeah, if your brainwashing is absolute, then yes, you will still look for the first opportunity to kill me. But of the two ways that I treated you, which way would you be less likely to be in a rush to kill me?
The second, but I'd probably just be more strategic.
If you really believe deep down that you have to kill me no matter what, then yes, you will kill me no matter what. But if you're not so intensely brainwashed, and we really can't look at all Muslims as so brainwashed. They're not. I've met many Muslims here in Israel, and most of them are much more flexible and open-minded than you might think.
Izzy,
Yeah.
Joan, what I found rather interesting was that Joan's opening complaint was, "Hey, you're trying to kill us. You're trying to kill us." And it ended up, that's exactly what she wanted to do to you.
She wants to do to me. Because it's
I
true.
mean, for equally no good reason other than you're not Islamic.
Well, that's what the Quran says to do.
I wrote an article a
It
number of years ago.
It makes your opening argument a little disingenuous, doesn't it?
No, because it's what the Quran says to do. Oh, that you're killing me.
Yeah. If that's the ethic you live by and honor and respect, why blame the Jews for doing that to you? You
Well, that's a
respect
good
it.
point. That's interesting.
I watched it come full circle. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, it's ironic.
Mhm.
And for
I think
You know,
yeah, Rachel's right.
if you believe that killing is the right way, then you're going to believe that the other wants to do the same to you because that's your belief. It's the same thing of anything else. If that's your perspective, that's what you're going to think others are also wanting. It's part of your perspective.
are you trained in psychology, Jill? Because
I
that was a very psychologically adept statement. Yeah, it's true,
well,
because they actually believe that we intentionally want to kill them and enjoy killing them because that's what they feel towards us. So they attribute the same motivation to us. But that's why I made it a point to say to Joan over and over again, we hate having to kill you. We wish we didn't have to do this to you. We want you to thrive and flourish, which is true. You know,
She
many
just
people.
swept it aside.
What?
She swept that aside.
Yeah.
That
Because
can't be true. It doesn't fit my model. You have to hate us.
Joan was actually doing a very good job of playing an extremist
Oh,
Muslim.
excellent. Yeah,
She did a very good job. She stuck to it very well. But
indeed.
still, I think you can still see the difference of the two approaches. If the first time I treat her like an enemy, I'm angry at her, I'm defending myself, I'm attacking her back, then she's going to do the same to me and we're going to be enemies. But if we work together and I always treat her the second way and I'm understanding and little by little, she'll get to trust me more and to like me better, and we'll be able to work together in harmony or be neighbors living harmoniously. But if I treat her like an enemy, we're going to be enemies.
so Izzy, are you teaching this in the schools?
I'm teaching, you mean as far as racism goes?
Uh, well,
Wh-
how to be empathetic to your enemy, basically. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's racism or anti-Semitism or bullying. I mean, I think it's all the
Yeah,
same, right?
yes, this is what I teach in schools. I teach it to the students, and I show them how to deal with people who insult them and are aggressive in all kinds of ways. I also,
Get into the Indian schools or only the Israeli schools?
no, I've worked in many more American schools than Israeli schools. Because of
What about
COVID, I haven't come to the States to work in school since COVID because it pretty much destroyed the school speaking business. But when this COVID thing is over, I hope I'll be invited more. But I can also do uh, webinars. I can do it electronically, and it's cheaper and it's easier for me. And I don't have to deal with change time zones and jet lag and stuff like that. It's cheaper and it's almost as effective to have me do this by Zoom.
Are you able to get into the Palestinian schools?
I haven't even tried.
Well,
And
there are preschools, and I've heard speakers talk about schools that are both Jewish and Israeli, like in areas close to settlements, that where they're trying to change the tide at the source by educating these children that they're the same, that they're not, they don't have horns, etc.
Can I make a comment as an observer? Okay, so my parents are also survivors of the Holocaust. My mom was released from Bergen-Belsen years ago. I also grew up with, and she was young when the war ended. I think she was 7 or something like that. But she lived through all of the horrors from 1939 on. My dad was in the Gulag, so they were surrounded by a lot of hatred. Moving to Israel, they lived in Israel for many years. My dad was in the army for many years. And generally stationed in the north, but we grew up around. I mean, for me, I can pick out if I see, something that looks suspicious, left out, a bundle left out. I remember being a little kid and being taught to be very aware of my surroundings, like hyper aware of my surroundings. Then we moved to Texas, and things are very different. But my parents couldn't speak English very well, and so. Just like anybody moving to a country when they don't have the language, my father went to do construction work because he didn't have anything else that he could do. He did not speak any English. And my mom was a preschool assistant to the She went from working at Bank Leumi and being the right-hand person to the head of Bank Leumi, not speaking English or very little, to changing diapers in preschool. So yes, I mean, that goes back to the falashi thing. You just make do with what you got when you get there, and you work your way through creating something different for you. So anyway, with some friends, other Jewish friends who had a jewelry business, they said to them, here are some gold chains, go sell them at the flea market or something. And so they did. They actually developed a whole wholesale jewelry business, but it started out with 10 little thin gold chains on the flea market. Our neighbors to the right of us were Palestinians. The ones across from us at the flea market in the booths were Egyptian. Sorry, the neighbor's dog. And we were all, every single Saturday and Sunday, were at the flea market, because this was what my parents had to do to survive. So there was no going to synagogue on Saturdays or whatever. It was, we grew up on the flea market and working every single weekend. My parents would work. My brother and I would read books or play around or futz with things, in the trunk of the car. They had one of those hatchbacks. So we would hang out there. When it was freezing cold, my dad would bring thermoses with hot cocoa. He shared them with the Palestinian neighbor, with the Egyptian family that across the way. We took care of each other. When the Egyptian family, when their kid noticed that someone stole something from my parents, he said, "Hey, lady, they just took a chain," and so he helped chase that person down. We took care of one another. And the Palestinian people, Naaman, I remember his name. He said, "You are so different from what I've been taught to hate." So when we notice the similarity, that the other person is a person, they're also cold when the weather is cold. They're also, sometimes hungry or bored in the middle of the day, or they're also frustrated if business isn't going well. Or you look at the humanity, not the color of the skin, not where the hell are they from or not. You see the being that's there. And none of those outside things matter. You just notice that the person's there and you take care of one another. And so it was really an interesting experience. I'm blessed because I may be, Israeli, and I may be the daughter of, 2 Polish Jews, and I may be Jewish in this particular lifetime. I do believe we've been here more than once, but I'm not just that. And I'm reading now a book by Anita Moorjani, who passed away and came back, or as this reality calls it, a near-death experience. But she said on the other side, there were no colors, there was no race, there was no gender, there was none of that stuff that we keep using to divide.
Not even gender?
Not even gender.
Oh, shucks.
This against that. And so it's really beautiful. I'm rereading her second book now, but she's speaking about all of this hatred that we hold on to here that doesn't exist when we are willing to look beyond. And with that, because my parents don't believe in any of that stuff, they think I'm woo-woo. The Anita Moorjani, and she's got a lot of YouTube videos. It's a Hay House published book. But the first book was Dying to Be Me. The second one that I'm reading is What If This Is Heaven, or something like that. But it's fascinating to me that if we would just take a moment and look beyond all of these definitions and look beyond all of these stories that we've been telling, then there's nothing to defend. And you find the humanity in the other person, and appreciate them. They've chosen what they've chosen because that's what they grew up with. Naaman grew up with, I kill Jews, and yet he had a family right next to him, and we all got along. Yeah.
Moorjani?
Moorjani, Anita Moorjani, Moorjani. And just her experience of what happens, on the other side was beautiful to read, and how she's kind of taken that experience and tried to bring it into this world where everybody's, defending how right they are. But just like what you were saying before, Bob, that, the whole in the going full circle, people will only accuse us of what's going on for them. And so if they're pointing fingers and saying something, what is it that they're trying to cover up in what they're doing? I used to think of it this way, I guess this way, when you're pointing a finger at someone, you've got three coming back at you. So whatever it is that you accuse somebody else of being and doing just comes right back. What is it showing you about yourself? So sorry, I just wanted to add that because I had a very direct firsthand experience beyond the hate.
Rachel, I think
Well
that
said.
could be a good thought to end this session with. I want to thank all of you. It was nice seeing some of you again that I haven't seen in a very long time. Anne Marie, you were quite quiet today. Okay.
I was just listening. It was so refreshing to hear you again, and I use your principles all the time in my personal life and in my work, and I just know it works, and I will continue doing it. So it was so nice to see you.
Very good. Thank you so much. I do plan on doing this, on having more of these. I will send out a notice. I hope people will like it enough to, well, first of all, I'm recording this. I'm going to post this for anybody to watch. So I hope it'll generate some interest. And I thank you so much. And if I do these things again, I hope some of you or all of you will join again. Also, I hope you'll want to spread this around to other people. Somebody had asked if I'm doing this in schools here, Palestinian schools. When I first moved here for the second time 6 years ago, I became involved with grassroots organizations here, and I tried to get involved in schools, but nothing worked out. I don't know why. Maybe I'm not forceful enough or whatever, but after a while, I just got tired of trying and I forgot all about it. But I certainly should not give up the idea and maybe work to make that happen.
Izzy, may
Yes.
I comment on that too? First of all, never give up, because your message is wonderful. And when we go beyond the having to defend this one is right or this one is wrong, because that's where even in the second role play that you were doing, there was still a lot of going back to the point of view that you have, rather than looking at what is going on for the other person. But that's an aside. If you let go of the having to prove anything to anybody and just letting them be and letting you show that there's a different way available, and you keep adding to your YouTube channel, to your Facebook presence, or wherever it is that people may see something, It may not be a direct, like a school person who sees it. You never know who's gonna trip on it, but someone will see it and it will get to
Yeah.
somewhere if you don't give up on passing the message. And it
Okay.
wakes people. Take them a while, but they do wake up.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I really appreciate it. Okay, I thank
Thank
all
you,
of you.
Izzy.
Oh, okay. Morris,
Thank
it's
you,
been a
Izzy.
pleasure. I haven't seen Morris. You know, he's my second cousin. I haven't seen him probably in 7 or 8 years, something like that. Yeah.
Please,
So it's
love
great
to
to
the
see you again.
family. And next time we'll try to invite some anti-Semites.
Okay, very good. Okay, be well. Thank you so much.
Before you say goodbye, could you please
uh,
put your email address in the chat?
You want my email address?
Please.
It's izzy@bullies2buddies.com. Okay, again, I thank you very much. I really appreciate everybody who's come here to listen and to participate, and hope to see you again soon. Be well.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.